everybody. Episode number 3, can you believe
Already?
it? The story just keeps going, and I feel like there's still going to be a few more eps after this. But this week we're going to talk about like sustainability, and like I think we said at the end of last episode, like there's a legit question about putting more plastic out into the environment through this kaupapa. So it's something that we've really been looking into and making sure we're a bit more educated on what we're doing and why we think that it's still a good idea to be using this type of plastic. And on top of that, like these guys at Vaka are thinking about the environment all the time. Is that right, Jess?
Yep.
No, am I just making that up?
I like to think I do.
But I guess the other decision you made is to go full electric with your vehicle.
Yeah.
And getting one of the best of the best.
Oh.
The Model Y. Why get the Model
baby.
Y, Jesse?
We need the space because we move a lot of 3D printers around. So, you know, for example, we drove down to Wanganui to run a workshop. We had 4 of us in the car, 2 3D printers, all of our luggage. And because the Teslas don't have like, you know, traditional motors, there's a lot of extra storage space that you would normally not get.
Yeah.
So there's like...
What is the front called?
Yeah, it's called a frunk. So you get like a front trunk. It's not huge, but you can stick like bags in there, you know, like travel bags.
For your blanket and your pillow?
Yeah. And then heaps of space in the back once you open everything up. So
yeah. Mean.
Yeah.
Oh well, we're going to show you how to charge.
Yeah. Which is good.
What about the other day, and I forgot to close this when I went home until the next day.
Oh.
And I forgot to close the flap.
Oh yeah, this one it'll close automatically when you pull it out.
No.
So then I use, because this is ChargeNet, they're like a private company.
Yeah.
And they have an app. So you just open their app and then activate it.
Activate.
Station A, yep. Hit activate.
Oh yeah, we rolling.
Boom. And that's it. It should start charging up. Yep.
So what is all this stuff?
I'm not an expert in this at all.
150 kilowatt.
Yeah, so the kilowatt will just tell you like the capacity of the charger, how much power it can deliver. And so of course.
You said this is a good one, eh?
This is a fast charger, yeah.
So this is you charging there, eh? And then it's also on the app.
That's it. Yeah, and the app's really handy. It just connects in with my credit card, so you know every time I charge, just charges me and I drove off. But there are 2 types of charging cable, the main 2 types. So you've got CHAdeMO, which is like I think like Nissan Leafs and cars like that have it. And it's a different pin configuration. And then you've got CCS, which is what the Teslas have. So this won't take long. We're at like 56 when we started. Probably be here for 10 minutes. We'll get up to closer to 70. I didn't precondition the battery, but all good.
Oh, Jesse.
I know.
What are you up to, bro?
I think you also need quite a bit of lead time for it to warm up properly.
Yeah.
But all good.
All good, all right.
Cool. This is 3D printing filament. So it's plastic, but we use the word filament to describe as a material.
Tell me, how is this filament like better for the environment than we may think?
Yeah, it is plastic, but a couple of things I'll point out first. So this material is called PLA, and if anyone has been involved with 3D printing before, you'll know this is like the most common material that we use. PLA stands for polylactic acid. It is actually
It's the stuff that gives you cramps, eh?
Yeah, you might
Lactic
think
acid.
it is. Yeah. PLA is actually a plant-based plastic, so there is a bunch of different stuff used, but cornstarch is one of the main components that are used in the formula behind this material. But this material is quite cool because it's extremely easy to print with, so you can make intricate shapes and designs like this without the plastic kind of bubbling up and kind of clogging everything. A lot of people that see 3D printing, they think it's a waste because they only see these little toys that like YouTubers make, and that seems to be the only thing that they see people making with it. So they're like, why would you waste your money like doing that? Because it's all plastic, right? And yes, while that is one side of 3D printing, if you know how to really make meaningful designs, this plastic although it is plastic and plastic is bad for the environment, you can put this plastic to good use. So cornstarch is one of the main components. There's a bunch of other chemicals and resins and things that are used, and the process for making filament is improving every year. And so there are companies now, given climate change, that are starting to use more sustainable resources, natural resources to make filament. In fact, fun fact, there's actually people here in New Zealand that are experimenting with harekeke, making filament out of it.
Yes,
And I got
love
to
that.
see some and hold some prints made out of harekeke filament.
What did it feel like?
It was
Rough?
but it was only because it's still early stages. So
Yeah.
same with PLA.
Not silky like this, eh?
This material PLA has taken a long time to get to where it is now.
Yeah.
That's just the natural curve of innovation, though.
We should link. I read this cool little article that talked about that and talked about the amount of corn that was used.
Yeah.
And I guess some hesitations around like the impact that making plastic like this could have on our food sources.
Yeah.
But it's real interesting. It's good to see it being made out of natural materials. And then it
Yeah.
said something along the lines of how if you put it through industrial like composting systems,
Yep, it is
not the home
compostable.
composting systems, then you can break it down faster that way. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of good things there, eh?
There is. One thing I always try to encourage people to think about when it comes to this kind of kōrero, remember that innovation takes time. And so, yes, using something like corn, which is a good food source, may not be the best option. It's a step in the right direction. There are others that are using like plastic from the ocean, waste plastic, and they're finding ways to sustainably turn that into filament.
Yeah.
But it's still early days, like the technology has a way to go. So,
And so then what about the toxins? So when you melt plastic, obviously it lets off those fumes and
oh yeah,
stuff.
and some are really bad.
Yeah.
So one of the main 3D printing filaments that used to be kind of like the go-to was a material called ABS. One could argue that it still is quite a popular choice, but most people that used to use ABS are now moving away to other materials. ABS emits very strong toxic fumes, and to use the material properly, it also has to be in a heated environment. And so, as you can imagine, toxic fumes and heated environment, not a good combo. However, most 3D printers now, if they're fully enclosed like our ones, they'll have filtration systems built in. So I could print with ABS in our office now and nobody would be at risk because it's
Yeah.
all being filtered out. We don't, but PLA also has toxic emissions. They're nowhere near as bad as plastics like ABS, but once again, they can be controlled safely if you have the right equipment. So we only use printers now that are fully enclosed because they tend to reduce the risk for toxic emissions, but they also have filtration systems built in that clean all of that. If you can get a material to turn into something like this, and it has properties that allow it to melt easily, you can most likely 3D print with it. So for
Yeah,
example, I know you can get chocolate filament that is edible. Actual chocolate.
Ooh, speaking my language
Hard to work
now.
with because it's quite brittle. And some companies, they've done it's actually quite cool. They've made what they call wood PLA, which means they make this material the normal way, and then they'll mix in things like sawdust. Wood PLA, you can sand it just like wood, and you can stain it just like wood.
Yeah.
There are heaps of different companies that make filament. This company is quite cool. They're called Polyterra. As you can see, they use cardboard spools. And although a lot of the filament we buy is still coming on plastic spools, the companies who make them are starting to move in a more eco-friendly direction. So for example, most of the spools we buy now, they are reusable spools. And so you would twist it off and then you get a cardboard roll with the plastic filament that you just swap in.
Yes, I've seen those.
And so yeah, we're starting to use more in those.
All those ones are just tied with a cable tie?
Yeah. But yeah, more companies are moving to the cardboard route, and I reckon in the next 3 to 5 years you'll probably see the majority of filament manufacturers will be using eco-friendly
Be on,
materials or refillable spools. Yeah.
All right, I reckon we'll head back to the office now and then we'll have a look at the waste,
Yeah.
show you how tiny the waste is
Yeah.
from creating this way, eh?
Yeah.
Shot, Jess.
That's
Let's
it.
get out of here.
Cool.
Run it right back. Run it right back. We ain't got nothing to lose. We ain't got nothing to lose.
This is the only bin we use for all 7 printers. And the waste that you're about to see in here is like 3 months worth of waste typically. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's literally like 3 months worth of waste from 7 machines. And our machines are running almost every day, so.
What are these little things?
I'll explain the different types of waste. I've actually never had to do that before.
I know, it's actually kind of buzzy now that you look at it.
Yeah,
like
so-
it looks like a little bit like Lego.
In some parts do. So
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, you can categorise the waste. One category is you'll have failed prints. So,
Like this?
Yeah.
To moustache.
Oh, yeah, that's a little
Stay
bit.
there, stay there.
Yeah. Oh, did you get it in line?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. And then you've got a bunch of these like thin bits of line plastic. So what happens is the printer, when it goes to make the object, the first thing it will do is it will push a little bit of filament out through the nozzle to make sure it's flowing. So that's what each of these little bits of material is.
So what are you going to do with this, Jess? Where do you dispose of it?
There's a few things. There are companies who make recycled filament. So they take filament waste and then they'll make that into new filament. One company that I know of who does it here in New Zealand is called KiwiFil. You have to separate every type of material and every colour. So we're not quite at the stage where we're generating enough waste to do that. Unfortunately, what we have to do with this is throw it out in landfill. And that might seem like a red flag for some people, which I understand, but that's just the reality of the system right now we have. We don't have the recycling technology in our main system that can handle this material at all.
And it's biodegradable.
And it is biodegradable, especially if it goes through industrial composting machines. As much as we'd love everything to be sustainable, it's not realistic to have that expectation for where we're at as a society now.
Yeah.
What I can say though is the most important thing when it comes to this kōrero on 3D print waste, if you will, is to make sure we're not being too wasteful. It's all about being more intentional with what you design.
Yeah. Because that was one thing we actually forgot to talk about, is how what's amazing about this is that you can print to people's orders.
Yeah.
So you don't have to bulk purchase all this stuff from China.
Yeah.
You can literally just put a product up, and as soon as someone buys it, you can print it, and it takes minutes or hours, depending on what it is, right?
Yeah.
So then that type of waste and that carbon footprint of trying to get it from China, from those bad plastics, all the way over here, you have to buy in bulk to get a good rate and sell it cheap. You can make it cheap right here to order, so you don't have all this extra crap, right?
So another way that we can be really meaningful and intentional with 3D printing for good is to take materials that would otherwise go to landfill and use 3D printing to augment them or take them to a new level. If any of you have ever bought camera gear, you know how expensive camera gear can be. So I saw these double-handled rigs that you could swivel and do cool shots with. So I decided I'll try and make one. And my co-founder actually had a chair. It was from her dinner table set that broke. And so I said, actually, I'll take the metal poles off that and I'll see if I can use it for this project I'm doing. And this is the result. And so this is a double handle.
These are the metal poles here.
Yeah, and the ones in the handles as well.
Yeah.
So this is an actual functional double-handled rig. We can either put our camera there, or if it's easier, flip it upside down and mount it there.
Yeah.
I designed it to be swiveled, and all I had to do was print these grips and all the joints, and then I just had some spare nuts and bolts at home. Done. The cost to make
Just
this,
like that, eh?
I think it only cost us maybe $5 to $10 worth of material, 3D printed material, and we use it all the time. So.
Yeah. How cool is the story, eh?
Yeah.
I think we're going to do one more episode next week where we just look at that, look into that a little bit more, the application of 3D printing in reality, right? And you guys have had some cool experiences so far of helping people create something out of 3D printing that they just need in the everyday world. And then also show, from our perspective at Konei, we're really interested in the role that 3D printing plays in e-commerce in the future as well. Yeah. And that's something that we're kind of learning about at the moment, and how, like I said before, how we can be better at providing customized experiences that are one-offs, that minimize waste. You don't have to rely on supply from other countries or anything like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next week, I think, which will be cool. Sure. But thanks for following so far. Make sure you sponsor the ocarinas for a kura, or buy one for yourself.
Like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, sponsor a box for a school.
And up the wires.
All in the wrap, up the wires.
Let's go.
Sure.
All right, see you next week.
I ain't got nothing to lose.